buy or we do not buy. Okay, I saw there are some questions here, do not worry, so I will address them. I think one of them mentioned that how do we deal with all those, people with a disability of hearing, speech. Very good questions. Yeah, so there are some actually ways, all right, recommended ways that dealing with all these customers in the later slides. So we will actually share with you in the later part, all right? Yeah, there's more in depth lah. I believe there's also some of us also will be very curious how do you deal with those person with the visual impairment, with hearing impairment, all those things, right? Very valid questions. All right. Bruce. Well, like Bruce Lee, Bruce, all right, Bruce, Bruce, all right. So what is Bruce all about? Recognizing customers, recognizing vulnerable customers, all right. B is actually a behaviors, right? Um, Sometimes the behavior of our customers will be able to tell us whether he understand or don't understand certain things, especially those, as I mentioned to you, that has actually faced the adverse life event, means actually a disaster, in a way that the spouse has passed away now. So when you see them, the way they talk to you, I believe that you don't uh really need to talk to them, because when they approach us, right, they will actually has a way to already raise all their grievances, all right, before they even talk about the insurance. So this behavior will actually give us a signal whether they actually has some certain emotion or financial stress that we need to deal with them. I mean, this is about the observation, observing our customers. I think observation not only for the customers, vulnerable customers, even for normal customers also, right? By observation, by seeing their body gesture, the way they speak. So more or less we know that, whether these are the genuine customers, and whether these are customer, can actually afford to actually purchase certain product we recommended. All right. Remembering, um, elderly person, not all, I'm this in a very general manner. Let me rephrase it. Some people may have a very bad memory, all right, because especially those that do not have a knowledge about general insurance, all right, so they may ask again repetitively and again, right, what is that all about? What is that? For example, when we are trying to use some terms like uh, uh, policy inception. So customer may not be able to understand what is policy inception, so we ask again and again. So to make it simple, as to avoid the language barriers, actually the commencement of the product, the commencement of the insurance lah. All right. The pay of insurance when it will get started, it's called inception date. All right. Now, understanding is very important. Sometimes we need to actually, sometimes you see when we got used to it, we talk our own lingo. Sometimes we may not, we actually assume customers also know our lingo. So something may not be very accurate and very correct. Sometimes customers may just be able to understand a very minimum, terms, and thereby we really need to talk to them in very layman term lah. Communicating, I think communicating is everybody can communicate, I believe, but communication in a very effective manner, I think that you take some, what do you call that? Uh, that may take some time for us to really revise very thoughtful manner on how to actually communicate effectively with vulnerable consumers. But whether the consumers or customers, right, sometimes that we also need to display our empathy, law, right? Knowing that, especially an elderly person may not be able to speak well, may not be able to understand. So sometimes we really need to actually, have some patience with them. E, evaluating. So after listening to customers, what they really want, or what they really worry about, then only we digest all the information, then only we able to actually, propose insurance or solutions which can, address, their needs and their expectation. So evaluating, I think it's very important. Yeah. So it's called push or brush, right? All right, let's talk about behavior here. Okay, a bit more in depth here. So what is behavior all about? All right. Now, when we talk about the behaviors, so customers may display, the vulnerabilities through behavior. Sometimes, when we see not only I would say the vulnerable customers, even for the ordinary customers, the ordinary customers, right? by looking at by actually seeing their face, sometimes they will give a signal whether this customer understand or really needs some further explanation, all right, on certain terms and conditions of the product, all right. For example, they may have a very confused eye gesture, right, and they may feel a bit hesitated, uh, always avoid certain things when we talk about it because they don't understand happens, all right. And also sometimes, if if they may avoid eye contact. I mean, avoid eye contact is a very common gesture lah. No, sometimes even I remember during my school time, when teacher asks us some questions and we don't know, we're not confident. What do we do? We avoid eye contact with the teacher, all right? Or we just put our head down. We don't want to have any eye contact with customers, with teacher. I mean, this is a very natural human behavior, all right? So with all this behavior, it's not a weakness. Perhaps it's something that, we're able to see, then we're able to address what they really do not understand. Yeah, things like that. Behavior again, all right, as a certain extent, right, customers may ask us to repeat the information again because they find that they're unable to capture information. And sometimes, even the vulnerable customers, they may have ego lah. Ego may have pride lah. Pride lah. Sometimes also they are a bit shy away. Ask a few times or so, they cannot get what we are trying to actually explain to them. They may just avoid our eye contact. So if really we face this situation or this situation, all right, I think what we need to do is actually keep checking with the customers in a very toned down manner to see what are the things that they really do not understand. Perhaps that we don't use the words do not understand, but we will actually uh, um, tone tone down in a way that, so is there any further explanation you need me to actually to actually emphasize? So is there any way that you find this policy is a bit difficult to digest? Uh, any area that you need my help to share with you again? I think the share word is actually more more lenient and more powerful. Share, right? Anything that you want me to share with you again, anything that you want me to share with you in a certain aspects, that can actually make you feels better, feels more comfortable. All right, all these things. Yeah. So it happens. That's all that. It's actually no fast and hard rules. It really depends the choice of words that we use. Because each customers may have a different behavior. Thereby, we need to actually adjust our behavior to align with their thought. That's more important. All right. Remembering. Sometimes, we customers may have actually memory, a short memory lah, short memory, right? So they may not be able to remember, what we have actually explained to them. So, they may actually keep upping the same questions again, and again, because they do not really understand what is that all about, and and they do not actually, you know, uh, sometimes, when, especially a first time buyer, they may get very stressed up It's just like, sitting exam, doing exam paper, can be that extent, they may get very, very scared of, get very intimidated, and sometimes, we need to actually talk to them in a very uh, friendly face, right? In a very friendly manner, so that at least, they feels more comfortable and and more open. All right. Of course, openness, it actually doesn't grow overnight. Sometimes we may even need to see, a few times only we are really that to make them feel comfortable. All right. Then only when a customers feel comfortable, that is where he will feel more uh in a way that, are more open, and able to actually absorb better of what we are trying to, explain to them. Something that I believe that you all have your own unique experience, how to deal all these customers, right? Understanding. Uh, some customers may not understand certain jargon words. Premium is something that you and me know because we are in the industry, right? And some may not know what is premium is. What is the definition of premium, and they may show us a very blank face. This is called language barrier. Of course, we have to pay. Actually, when we explain to customers, then we actually explain in a very, very layman terms. For example, premium is actually is the money you pay for your insurance protection. That is called premium. All right. And of course, um, speak in the same wavelength with them. When they speak slow, then we will try to explain to them in a slow manner. When they actually, speak in Cantonese and we happen to know Cantonese, then we actually sing along with them now. Then we actually talk in Cantonese. Uh, and some customers I mean the vulnerable customers may feel very like how to put it away, in a very stressful manner. Those that also face with the inferior complexity. That means they always feel down on themselves. All right. Feel very down on themselves. Sometimes you may even talk to them in other things. For example, the common interest they like. Sometimes you may even talk to them if they know, hey, what song do you really like? You talk to you about, I like BG. BG is actually it's a very old band anyway. Then we are able to talk to them in that manner, then they begin to feel warm up, they begin to open up. And then only we talk about insurance. I think most important, the key point is to make them feel relaxed first, before we talk about even the insurance, right? Communicating, communication, all right. Everybody can communicate, not issue, but how effective we can actually communicate to customer may pose a challenge, because communication, it's not one way. Everybody knows it's a two-way, two-way communication. We need to be a good listener, actually, absorb what they are trying to tell us in the first place. Then only we are able to digest the information, actually tailor make a communication which is a bit more effective, while talking to them, so that, they do not feel under pressure or do not feel overwhelming, they do not feel, uh, uh, something that, they are so naive, they do not know anything. Sometimes when they feel they are too naive, right, they may just shy away and then just walk out because they do not know what we are trying to explain to them. So in that manner, I think the most important thing, again, come back to the language barrier. So we must talk to them, in the very layman term. We do not use the word lapse surrender cash value because they may not understand. So perhaps that, we want to mention that instead of lapse, that your policy, will not will actually uh um being cancelled, right? If you do not actually, make the premium on the regular basis, as stated in the policy. Right? Evaluating. Hmm. uh, I believe most of you are already seafood, already good, right? In actually evaluating, you know, the behavior of the customers. So more so on the vulnerable customers. So by showing their face expression, so it will actually send us a signal whether they understand or whether they need further explanation, whether their confidence, these are the real product that actually they desire to take up. All right, this one take times lah. Of course, the unique of the vulnerable customer is that sometimes we need to have some empathy lah towards them lah. All right. Especially I think nowadays we talk about financial literacy. Even GG, sometimes you go to the orphanage home, even go to elderly, old folks home, even go to those college to talk about insurance, just to actually, to share with them what is insurance all about. At least they help to actually increase the financial literacy level. I mean the level, the understanding, the insurance product or rather the insurance industry, how it works, whether because some customers they are very naive, even a fresh grad they may not know that they only know about benefits, they may not know about the exclusion lah. I think the common example I always like to use is actually on motor motor vehicles. A fresh grad come up from work, buy a motor, buy a car, all right, and they wanted to have, of course, a car insurance. So they thought everything is covered. They may not know that, the flood, all right, cover need to be extended with additional premium. So it will be actually our duty to deliver this message to them, lah. So at least, they know, lah, something like that, right? All right. Now is actually 10, right? Let me just take a look at the question. Okay, one moment, yeah. Let me just take a look at the questions. All right. This is actually from KL. Agent asked, someone asked me, you are selling insurance, right? I said yes. Her reply is that I can cross over to buy from you. I asked what happened to as an agent. Want to have one more agent to service me. My reply, I don't give discount. Or her reply like her reply like that. Or all right, as I mentioned to you, this no wrong or right answers, right? Of course, as the professional agent, what we need to do is to actually find out more information from the customers and see whether we're able to address their needs. As I mentioned to you, we are not extraordinary person. We are still just a warm body that that a rather ordinary person, right? That just to carry on with our life. If things that we can help, yeah, we can help. Things that we really couldn't help, and those that against our principle, I think we need to actually just make them understand. That is actually the principles that we are having. All right. So thanks for sharing. All right. Something very common, very common. All right, it's happening. This one I won't be able to actually tell more. Also from the agents, right, about the Centennial PA. I think product team already have some training last year and this year, right, to talk about the Centennial PA. All right. Yeah. To a certain extent, customers may not, you know, may need to make some adjustment, on their lifestyle sometimes. Yeah, as I mentioned, that sometimes we really cannot satisfy everybody needs lah. That's my contentions. All right. All right. I think that's about it. Okay. So what I will do right now is actually to give you all the the a short break of the uh, now it's 10 o'clock, 3 minutes, right? So let's come back at 10 or 15, 10:15, right? Then we shall continue with the rest of our topic here, right? But there's one question here asking about not today's topic, but more on the general knowledge, right? Great Shield Active need to submit health declaration form after issue policy in IFE. This one, sorry, I won't be able to share with you. You have to actually check with the because normally the Fish Active, when you first purchase, right, you don't need to just submit any help, any health declaration, unless for the highest plan, there are three questions that they ask, then you to submit. All right. So yeah. All right. Thank you very much. To take up a protection from us. I think that is the whole summary of the behavior, right? Sounds simple, but quite complex at times, especially when we are dealing with these vulnerable consumers, right? Now, all of a sudden, customers may come to us and say, I'm actually overwhelmed with my bills. Yeah, I mean, in our heart, we may say that if you're overwhelmed with your bill, you're overspending, then that is nothing really concern us lah. But of course, as a professional agent, then we be able we be able to ask them, right? The customer share with us what is their concern, and see whether are we able to give them some advice, especially youngster overspending money, then where experienced agent will be able just to give them some tips how they could actually manage their bills, things like that. All right. No wrong or right answer. Of course, there must be disclaimer lah, to say that we only given them, our this some tips how to go about it. All right. Whether succeed or not, of course, we leave it to them. All right, customers overwhelmed with the bills. So you can see them like their facial expression, their body language. Especially when you talk about the premium, they say, "Wow, so expensive." Even though you have already telling them this the minimum plan that we may have lah, things like that. Right. So at least, we understand this is the situation of customers. At least we'll actually recommend a product, which you feel that, there is a minimum protection that they will be able to respond and take it up. If they really feel that they really couldn't afford, then there's nothing much we can do, lah, right? So now, I think asking questions is very important. Observing behavior, I think, is the first level that we must be able to have this certain ability, right? And then the second level, we must be able to have certain ability to ask some relevant questions, all right, in order to know what is there in their heart, what's in their mind, what are the things that they are really, you know, are uh, interested, in purchasing, a certain uh, a product or insurance plan or solution from us or protections, right? Now, this is just it may not be a very standard script, but however, it's just a tips, right? How do we actually, do the opening dialogue or communication with customers, right? Well, before we proceed further, right? So, can I understand a bit more better, or can you share with me what is your needs a bit better, so that I'm able to actually recommend a better, or rather, a product which address your needs or your concerns, all right, things like that. Of course, you may also include by asking about certain conditions that might affect, the preference or the needs of the customers, lah, huh? Things like that. And rest assured, right? I think more importantly, rest assured that all the information that you share with me will remain as confidential. Of course, lah, under the PDPA Act 2010, I think confidential is very important, right? That we cannot actually breach any of them. There are PDPA, there are 7 principles. I think one of them is actually consent. Consent fall under the first principle. All right. That's called consent. Uh, it's called general principle. Another principle is called confidentiality principle. Also very important. All right, that we uh, cannot actually, release the information to other party. So of course, at the end of the day, we can actually mention that, is there only thing that, I can assist you better? I think assist better will be a very strong uh, opening remark, lah. All right. Now, disability, people with disability, right? How do we ensure that we can actually be able to communicate with the customers effectively? So, of course, sometimes you may actually start off not straight to the insurance lah. You may actually need to do some pre warm up conversation lah. So, for example, we may ask, may I ask your experience or the challenges that related to XXXXX, right? And especially those, your experience on why I mean your experience, that yeah, you have the hearing difficulties, uh the vision challenges, speech difficulties, all right. Try not to use the word impairment because it's a very strong one. Or we may use hearing challenges, vision challenges, also can, all right, speech challenges, or any physical concern challenges, right? Uh, that I should be aware of. Of course, obviously, if let's say those with a hearing problem, when you talk to them a bit more, right, then they will say they can't hear properly. Then this person may have the challenge. I mean, the hearing challenges. I think vision and speech, that one definitely, well, you talk to the customers, you're able to tell whether they have vision problem or speech problem, all right, or physical concerns. Even more, especially elderly person, they will hold a stick while they walk, right? Just to balance up their walking pace. Yeah, happens. So all this, of course, I'm going to say that if those people with a walking stick, then you may actually invite them to sit down in a comfortable manner. The only we talk to them, lah. Yeah. Financial difficulties. This could be quite sensitive when it comes to financial difficulties, right? So, I mean, perhaps that, you can actually just ask them, can you share with me whether you have any budget uh, constraint, constraint or any budget concern that you want me to actually help you, things like that. I think the word sharing is actually a more proper, toned down words, right? Or any financial commitment that you want me to consider when discussing the policy options with you, sir, right? Things like that. Yeah. Those with the adverse life event, I think these are the customers that quite not so easier to handle because adverse life events, spouse pass away, all right. Sometimes the customers may just got collapse, right? They may not know how to handle their life properly. They need a listening ear to listen to them. Happens, all right. So we need to handle them with due care lah. Sometimes life events change everything, right? And then, of course, losing a loved one can also affect their insurance needs, right? And also, you know, uh, uh, having a major change in their life or experience a major change in their life, right? That may actually make the customers feels life is incomplete or life is insecure, all right? So you must be able to take in all this consideration before we really talk to them in a careful manner lah. Language barrier, I think language barrier will be the ease lah, the ease that we're able to actually overcome lah. If the customers speak in Cantonese, Cantonese, we go along with them lor. Whatever song they want to sing, we sing along with them lor. Very simple lah. If Bahasa Malaysia, we speak to them Bahasa Malaysia lah. Even sometimes we speak a bit broken also, never mind lah. As long as they're able to understand, all right? Things like that. All right. First time buyer. First time buyer, it can happen to everybody as a first time buyer. They may get very nervous. They may get a bit lost at times. All right. So you must be able to lead them in a proper conversation to really identify what they really need in their mind, able to actually address their needs. Not only we carefully, propose a solution which able to actually meet their needs. That's more important. All right. So understand that you buy this insurance for the first time, right? Do you mind to share with me whether you want to consider a life insurance policy? Then of course you have to tell them what a life insurance policy all about, what are the plus and minus lah, things like that, right? Acknowledgement is very important because the opening speech is important, right? Get them to actually, talk to you. What is their actual needs in their mind? Of course, when everything is almost towards the end of the conversation, acknowledgement, all right, very important. Well, like thank you for sharing your information. So now I understand your needs, right, and your situations better. Not all how we say better because we can never understand all their needs but at least we understand better of what they really needs, right? Then then we work together to see what are the best options that are available for you. Right? Let's work together. I think these are very powerful words because you work together with the customers. It's not that uh, I will work out a plan for you sounds very silo and one-sided. When we mention that let's work together, for a plan for you. So that sounds more participating, right? That sounds more like, you work together with the customers to come up with a plan. All right. Now, how do we support, the vulnerable customers? Empathy, uh, professionalism. I'm sure all of us are professional agents here, all right? And care, just like we care our family, We show empathy to our parents, we show empathy to our children, we show empathy to our friends at times. So sometimes it's a practice, we must show empathy to this vulnerable customer as well. All right. Um, the skill in supporting vulnerable customers, as I mentioned, I think listening is very important. Active listening is very important. Listen to their words. It's very important because by listening to their words, right? So more or less you understand what is their hidden needs, right? What are the real needs? Uh, Sometimes we give an impression that when they talk to us, right, they need A product, but when we actually dive deeper, but by listening to them actively, we find actually they need B option, not A option. Then after you can actually work together with the customers, right, to come up with the options that they really needs, right? Empathy, of course, we must show a very empathy face lah, a very concerned face lah, uh, that we are listening to them all the time, right? Patience, sometimes we have to also display patience, no choice, all right, because these are the vulnerable customers. So we need to display our patience. All right. Um, Best practice. So how do we actually address their needs in a best practice manner? To support the or these vulnerable customers. Tailor communication, I think, is one of them. All right. Now, hearing disability. This one is actually a bit difficult because not most of us know the sign of the interpreter sometimes also those that with hearing disability, they may need to bring their family member who know the sign language, right? So that the when the customers, potential customers, right, showing a sign language, then at least a family member is able to explain to the agent verbally I mean, that's one way unless the agent is very good, you also know this sign language, that even better, even can draw a closer, rapport with the customers, right? Or rather, if these customers can write, then even better. If he cannot speak, right, then he can write. So at least when he can write, right, then he's able to actually express what they really want from us. Yeah. Email happens. Um, People with hearing disability, they can write, they can email, not a problem, right? Or they can even message, SMS or WhatsApp, right? I know a friend who's actually got hearing disability. um, we actually communicate via WhatsApp. Uh, 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 Even though when we have coffee, we have drinks, right? So we also communicate very via WhatsApp. So very silence moment with them over coffee, but we communicate via WhatsApp. So people thought that we're actually playing our own WhatsApp in the phone. But however, it is one way of me communicating with my friends, right? People with hearing problems sometimes also they may look down on their own. So we must also display some empathy right? Now, people with visual disability, all right, this is also quite difficult, quite a challenge moment. Audio description, right? Then those that have challenges, not totally have not totally blind, but can see a bit here and there. Then enlarge the font prints out for them, right? Yeah. If normally those people with visual disability, right, then they are very sensitive in listening. So I think audio description will be a better one. So if I ask my opinion, speech disability. All right. Uh, Speech disability. Well, again, because if this person only has speech disability, they can actually write, right? They can actually text. Again, can use a WhatsApp lah, email lah, the written writing on the paper, right? Uh, that's how it works lah, for those with speech disability. Now, those with physical disability, I think this is the one that we actually face most of the time. People with this, like physical disability, right? Of course, at the company level, this is normally some company may practice lah. All right, they put the ramps here so that people can, can just push the what they call it, the wheelchair or over the ramp here. Or rather elevators, quite common, yeah. Uh, Wide four ways, a more uh, spacious, a better spacious area, all right, to actually able to push in the wheelchair. Restrooms. I think restroom is quite common in the supermarket, in the mall. There's always a restroom, right? Even the parking lot also they are for OKU lah. Parking space for OKU, all right? This is at the company level, I would say. Home visit. Sometimes customers with disability, wheelchair bounded customers, right? Or potential customers, uh, they may not want to be seen in the public. They may want to invite you to their house, right? To talk about the insurance. It's very much depends on the agents, whether he actually accept this kind of this kind of the invitation. All right. Now, one of my friend, also agent, he told me that normally, let's say, he actually meet this person with a wheelchair bounded, and then also it's the first time meeting this person referred by another friend. What he does actually to bring along another colleague lah, or another friend whatsoever, all right, to the house, so that this is to protect himself lah. In case if anything happen, and the wheelchair bounded person, wanted to blame this person for anything, or at least there's a witness here lah. And of course, my friend also is a bit more uh, cautious lah. So he even actually put a recorder, put on the recording on the handphone while speaking to these vulnerable customers. Because we never know, but sometimes we have to protect our own, especially when a guy agent is meeting with a female potential customers, right? So sometimes we need to take a bit more precaution, right? Uh, Virtual consultation happens sometimes, right? Um, this is actually does not require the customers to go anywhere, but by picking up a call, right, then at least there's a virtual consultation that can be done. I think this will be a more better mode, provided this disability, physical disability customer is actually know how to activate lah, how to use Teams, Zoom, or other visual platform lah. Otherwise, then quite difficult as well, right? But of course, by doing this, also no physical touch lah. So normally, if a physical touch, the communication, um, um, I would say, the communication, the way of communicating will be a bit more effective lah, right? Now, again, as I mentioned here, tailor-made communication is important. All right. We need to have the patient and empathetic at times, right? As well as ensure that those people with physical disability, right? So it's able to actually get access to our insurance uh per se, like insurance proposal or products. Yeah. Now, poor practices. What are the poor practices? Fail to accommodate needs, fail to actually address their actual needs. All right. Sometimes in our mindset, we may think of something that we can tailor make to the vulnerable customers. But however, the 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 vulnerable customers may think otherwise, right? He may has his own needs that eventually being reviewed when we actually talk to them in a more mature or a longer conversation and being engaged, right? Then we're able to realize that hey, this is actually what they really need and not what I have actually initially thought. All right. So fail to accommodate their needs. No, it's a poor practice. Or assume that customers, when customers actually interested in that product without asking question also is a no-no. That's why it's very important to listen to the vulnerable customers actively. All right, so that we able to know what are what is the product they really needs. All right, and then we are able to ask uh relevant questions to reconfirm this is what they really needs, right? And then we acknowledge it. Then we work together. We work together to actually, to come up with that options. The rushing interaction sometimes may be out of time, maybe in a rush. That's why we actually rush, uh, rushing in our interaction with these vulnerable customers. Remember, sometimes the vulnerable customer need to feel more comfortable, need to get their engines started off, right, before they will open to us what they really need. So rushing interaction is not uh, a good uh, a good way to support these vulnerable customers, right? Now, so again, what are the best? That's not we talk about, the poor and the best practice for those person that having disability, right? So right now we talk about those person in the financial difficulties perspective. Of course, we and me know that best practice is actually to offer affordable options that can actually they have the ability to actually pay the premium. All right. Be transparent to the vulnerable customers. You know, well, if if they actually have this so to speak the transparent means actually we offer option to the customers, right? At the same time, we must transparent to them that with this option, this will be your coverage, this will be the benefits. Nevertheless, we still have exclusions, things like that. We'll be transparent to customers, right? Offer savings solutions. Of course, this one also related back to the affordable options. See whether there's any insurance that can also have a savings elements, right? So of course, be transparent. You must be let them know, as I mentioned to you, what are the benefits and the exclusion, what are the additional fee if there's any. So what is will be the consequences of the late payment? Uh, Premium need to put aside. Uh, all right, and whether there's a guaranteed or non-guaranteed insurance charges. So everything must be actually let them know. I think most importantly, when buy life insurance, must let them know whether it's non-guaranteed return or guaranteed return. That's more important. So it's for those that looking for those, some good savings plan, right? What will be the poor practice for those customer that is facing the financial difficulties? Well, I think upselling unnecessarily, something that we will not advocate, something that we will not really opine to do so. because customer already have financial stress. All right. So apparently or purely they just want a protection which can match with the ability to pay. Lah. That's as simple as that, right? So cross-selling may not be a good way. Lah. Ignoring affordability also come back to just now, the ability questions, whether able to pay. All right, and lack of follow up. Sometimes we talk to them already, then we put aside, then we don't want to actually follow up. It happens. But sometimes follow up also may be good. You know why? Now, those customers financial, those financial difficulties doesn't mean that it happened permanently. Maybe at that moment of time they have financial difficulties, right? If we're able to recommend them a product which actually able to meet their financial needs, right? So eventually, as I mentioned to you, life is a roller coaster, up and down, right? When the life is up again, right, then he may be able to actually size up the premium, or he may able to even recommend their friends, their colleagues, their whosoever, to the agents because he find that this agent is very professional, very thoughtful, all right, in the first place when we meet them. So first impression is important, and along the way, the trust is being built, being created. So once the trust is being created, I think it's quite easy, right, for customers to recommend some friends or whatsoever, right, for us to have some potential business lah. Adverse live events, even this one really need a lot of skills, because some of them may not have this kind of customers at all. Those that facing the adverse live events, right? Means adverse live events may actually um someone pass away, all right, uh, that make the whole family lifestyle change, yeah, because of unable to maintain such expenses to support the lifestyle, all right, that you used to have. So in that case, you must always show our empathy and understanding. I think that's more important. All right. For example, I'm sorry to hear about your recent loss. So, is there anything that you can share with me? At this moment of time, things like that. All right. Allow flexibility, lah. Uh, in a way that sometimes. I mean, sometimes, yeah, I know that the insurance may have its own terms and conditions. So it's really up to us whether are we able to recommend a plan, a lower plan, which are able to actually also, you know, uh, suits the financial difficulties at the moment in time. So it very much depends on the terms and conditions. So I can't share much here. But however, at least if we're able to give them some flexibility, I think they will feel good. Provide tailor-made advice along with what they really need at the moment. That's quite important. Poor practice, insensitive approach. Straight away we talk about insurance. No lah. When people are having some family crisis, spouse pass away, leaving him or her alone. All right. So you must be a bit sensitive when we approach when they approach us lah. I think that's the whole idea, right? Of course we cannot say that, oh, this is the worst story I ever heard. All right. I mean, this is logically that we cannot you know uh throw out all these hurtful words. So all right. And using the pressure tactics, right? Hey, I think I have recommended you a plan right now. You better buy, huh? If you don't buy, then tomorrow you won't be able to get this price anymore, or even to downgrade your plan. Pressure tactics, no, we don't use pressure tactics, right? Or we actually neglect their mental health needs, lah. People experience these adverse life events. They are very fragile, all right? They need to their mental health need to be careful, um, careful being taken care of lah. So we need to be a bit more patient with these people. Sometimes when the customers has actually spent quite a long time with the agent, they become friends as well. Sometimes we need to actually just listen to them as a friends. Right. Language barrier. Yeah, language barrier. All right. Um, how do we support? When to support this language barrier here, of course, to use the preferred language. The key point here. Uh, uh, I mean, we can always ask lah. I mean, you can tell by the face when sometimes when when we talk to customer in English, then this customer may find a bit like don't know how to really respond. Ah, then you may ask them what would be their preferred language they can talk to lah. Right? Then at least it help to remove the language barrier, right? We need to simplify our explanation talk in a very simple manner. Do not use all those jargon words because customers may not understand, right? Okay, this may or may not happen. Some customers may speak, elderly person may speak Hokkien, and we do not know how, this, we speak okay, lah, Hakka lah, and we may not able to speak Hakka. But then, if you're able to have a friends can speak Hakka, or whether the family member of that potential customer can speak other language, right? Then ask them to bring along so that at least it can make the communication work in a better manner, lah. Integrators, yeah. Rural practice. We refuse to adopt. No, I only speak English. I don't speak other language. Something not right, law, right? Uh, uh, that's something that we shouldn't do. Assuming understanding, we can assume first understand. That's why we have to carefully, check with them from time to time whether, they need further explanation, right? If they need further explanation on a certain aspect, then we just slow down, tone down, and explain again. All right. Then ignoring cultural sensitivities. So sometimes we may need to actually what do you call that? Uh, in a way that we ignore their cultural and this one is very sensitive lah. It's sometimes it's still also religious like Chinese New Year we wear red, then we don't wear black, all right. uh and Malay like to wear green custom, I mean the attire, so things like that. So it's very diverse lah, and it's very uh difficult to really judge. So it's really need our discretion, all right, to actually um touch on those topic or that's actually relating to culture that's not sensitive lah to customers, all right. First time buyer, all right. First time buyer. So this one require a bit more patience. So need to actually walk through with them, uh, the, the option that we actually propose to them. So tell them what is insurance all about and how does insurance work and what is so important, all right, that to have this insurance, right? And also we need to encourage them to ask questions. Because by asking questions, not only we know what their really needs are, right? Sometimes you can assume what we propose is what they want. They may be a bit shy to ask questions, but we must able to actually encourage them to speak more, to ask some questions so that we are able to uh, understand better what is their needs. All right. So that's why from time to time we have to pause a while. We have to pause a while. Then we have to ask, whether is there any questions that so far that they want to ask lah? I mean, it's quite practical and normal, right? We will pause a while, then we ask what are the questions they have in mind that they want to actually speak up, right? Highlight key features. Just like our PDS, right? We have some key term features that we need to highlight to them. Of course, we cannot be highlighting A to Z, two details, but at least we highlight those key features to the customers as well. What will be the poor practice when we actually meet those customers who's a first time buyer? Tell them a lot of information, which really confuse the customers. All right. So they do not know how to decide. No. All right. Failing to explain the risk, we talk about the benefits, but we never talk about the major exclusion, right? Something that's not right. Right. Being overly sales driven, all right, something that being too aggressive lah, being too aggressive, right? Something that we don't encourage customers to do so, all right, or rather agents to do so, right? Being too aggressive, right? Because sometimes we have to put a pause, we have to be a bit more considerate, all right. We cannot be seen like sales driven, too much, like very commercialized. If customer feel it, they may find that, hey, there's no personal touch, in other words. Right? Now, we talk about, what are the poor practice, and the good practice, that those customers having financial difficulties, those customers who have the physical disability, and those customers who are the first time buyers, those customers has financial difficulties, and those customers who actually have experienced, adverse life events, right? So these are the something that, it's a tips for us to actually carefully design our conversation with customers when one day we really need to, meet up with these, vulnerable customers. All right. Now, avoiding exploitation and promote ethical sales. Of course, promote ethical sales is already, in the FSA 2003, right? So we need to be ethical when we promote products to customers. We need to be transparent. We need to treat customers fairly, lah. All right, we must not exploit them, lah. All right. So this is just a verbal communications have been pre-recorded, right? So exploitation is not something that we can afford to expose lah. So it must be ethical. It must be fair to customers. In short, to speak. Yeah. So it means we cannot take advantage of customers lah. We recommend a product. We push a product to vulnerable customers because we want to earn higher commissions. No. All right. We actually pressure customers to buy because when it gets sales, in a very, rushing manner, customers do not understand what we want, but we keep pushing to them. And eventually, they say they want, all right, it's not something that we want this to happen because we are pressuring them and they feel threatened. Remember, I think in the market conduct essential, so we can actually threaten customers to purchase product because if that happen, right? So the customers may lodge a complaint to Bank of Ghana, right? Misrepresenting, also no, we cannot actually misrepresenting, the product facts, the product that we're recommending to customers. Neglecting, you cannot neglect any product. We cannot neglect their needs, all right, when come to the rational, proposal that we wanted to actually propose to customers, right? Distrust, very strong words, right? Distrust. Once trust is created, right, it take a long time, but to actually destroy it very easily by one single misrepresentation, all right? So the trust will be destroyed, will be gone, all right? Now, when we actually have this, when customer has already this mindset of distrusting us, right? So they may have a very negative effect. So they may not want to deal with us anymore, right? Consequences could be quite serious, yeah. So to some extent that, the customers or maybe the family members may help the customers to actually make a huge complaint, all right, and find out to be true, right? Then this agent could also face some serious consequences. To some extent, the license could be also get revoked. All right. Now we talk about exploitation. Unemployed. Nobody want, this to happen to us, right? But as mentioned, life doesn't give us any warning. So when we're unemployed, right, of course, we still need to live on. And especially those with the already have the insurance protections, right? So they want to get the advice from their professional agents to see how they can then juggle or make adjustment of the insurance plan, right? In a way that they're able to actually pay lah, right? Yeah. So we must not mislead any product features. And of course, as mentioned, we cannot push for expensive premium. And also, uh, it must be seen transparent. Again, right? So we must be seen with empathy. I think the key word is actually transparency and empathy. So you must always be transparent, or another word is called integrity. Dealing customers with integrity, that's very important. Also, to display the empathy, all right, to be customers are focused, especially those unemployed customers, right? So you must able to tell them frankly. That's more important. Right? Because honesty is always the best policy, I believe. Yeah. Anyway, an employee doesn't happen permanently, right? Uh, After the customer has actually gained employment, perhaps that he may want to adjust again on the insurance needs, right? Only when they unemployed, so they may need some good support from the agents to see how they're able to make adjustment on the protection that they are having at the moment. All right. So that's about it, right? Now actually it's a quiz time. To test you all. It's a very simple quiz. I just want to see, whether you all are comfortable with this training, whether you all, are able to actually grab, what we are presenting here. Very simple, no wrong or right answer, right? Of course, we get it right, congratulations, all right. But however, if you don't get it right, also doesn't matter. Just take it as a learning ground, as a learning curve, right? So that at least from all this quiz, you're able to understand that, hey, this is not right, or this is the right answer. So from now, you're able to register. Oh, this is how I should behave. This is how I should do, and this is how I should respond. When dealing with the vulnerable customers, right? All right. First question here. Which of the following is not defined as a disability attribute of customers' vulnerability? All right. First is A is visual, B is hearing, C is physical. All right. So D is migraine. I repeat. So which of the following is not defined as a disability attribute of vulnerable customers? A is visual, B is hearing, C is physical, D is migraine. All right. Wow, wonderful. Thank you for your great participation. Yes. Visual, hearing, physical, these are the uh, disability. Remember about how we actually tackle the customers with visual disability. Now, those customers with visual disability, right? But at least they can write, they can email, they can WhatsApp. There's a counter. Uh, there is actually a few ways to communicate with those customers with visual challenges. Those with hearing problems, right? Then of course, again, they can write. All right. Uh, uh, what they need, right? But of course, we may need an interpreter because we may need to show some sign language because they do not know, they do not, when we speak, they can never able to hear us. But however, we can also communicate via written communication, no? Right? Physical, definitely lah, as mentioned to you, is actually is one of the vulnerable disability. Migraine it's not because migraine is actually is a serious headache, right? Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's a very good answer here. So answer is D. All right, D is answer migraine. Yes, give yourself a big clap. All right. Second question. Yeah, what is the primary reasons for identifying and supporting vulnerable customers? All right. First, to sell a product without considering vulnerable customers' need. Two is actually to ensure customers receive minimum support. C is actually to ensure customers receive fair treatment and appropriate support. D is actually to argue with a customer when a complaint is raised. So which is the right answer? I repeat. Yes, what is the primary reasons for identifying and supporting vulnerable customers? Uh, First, to sell a product without considering vulnerable customers, that means I don't care about your needs. I just want to sell a product. No. To ensure customers receive minimum support, because being a bit rigid, right? I only give minimum support. No, because you must display empathy. C, actually, to ensure customers receive fair treatment and appropriate support. Let's look at D first. To argue if a customer when a complaint is raised, right? So of course, we can never argue customers lah. Answer is C. Yes. Let me see whether it's C or not. Yes, answer is C. To ensure customers receive fair treatment and appropriate support. I think the key is fair treatment and appropriate support lah. Because I mentioned that each vulnerable customer, they are very unique. So they may actually, need to be responded by agent in a very comfortable, different manner that actually make them feel comfortable lah. All right. Okay, very good. Question 3. Which of these is an example of a behavioral indicator of vulnerability? That means which of the behavior here show that they have this vulnerable disability, right? A is actually the customer is speaking in a soft tone. B is actually the customer appears confused and repeatedly asks for clarification. C is actually the customer always appears to argue the terms of the policy. D is actually the customers insist on having multiple products for a comparison. All right. So which is the correct answer? Um, Customers that show or manifested the vulnerable, attributes. All right. So customers speak in a soft tone. Yes, some customers speak in soft tone, no problem. C is actually customer always argue the terms of the policy, just like the husband and wife always argue in the house. All right, very aggressively. This is actually customer insists on having multiple products for comparison. These are a very in demand or rather a very demanding customer only lah. So let me see whether which is the correct answer. Yes, it's B. Customer appears confused and repeatedly asks for clarification. That's why, this I mentioned that when we meet these winner customers, right, sometimes you must always pause a while and ask them to share with us, right? Is there any clarification needed? All right. And then we pause again. We ask again, is there any clarification needed that you want to share with me? I think a share is a very powerful word in itself. Do you understand? Because do you understand, it looks like, customers look very like not so intelligent, so not so good at the words, all right? Try to avoid using the words understand, but more of like sharing. Do you mind to actually let me know? All right. Do you mind, we can work together for option that you can actually, you know, uh uh address your needs, your concern. Yeah, use those softer words. All right. Very good answer is actually B. Yeah. The fourth question, which of this is an example of sorry, is actually the behavioral indicator of vulnerability, all right? Speak quickly to minimize the time spent on a call. B is actually use technical term to explain the situation in details. C is actually speak clearly, use simple language, and allow customers time to respond. All right, this actually speaks and hardly allows customers to seek clarification of the product details. So answer is, all right, let's look at the answer first. Again, why I want to emphasize so much on the behavioral demo, because this one actually helps us to assess the or observe the customer when customers more openly. All right, spending minimum time. Yeah, I want to spend minimum time with you only. No law, not ethical law, right? Not so sympathy. Show using technical terms because we want to show we are the insurance person. No, no. Because customers will understand what is the technical terms like. Some customers don't even know what is premium all about. He must say it's a money used to pay for policy lah. This is actually, we actually too aggressively we speak a lot, and then we hardly allow customers to seek clarification. Too aggressive, no. All right. Answer is yes. C. Speak clearly, use simple language, and allow customers time to respond. Very good. So everybody at least now you know what is vulnerable consumer all about. We know how to actually support this vulnerable consumer through a very tailored and careful made conversation, right? Okay, questions 5. Which of the following actions best demonstrate support for vulnerable customers? I repeat, which of the following actions best demonstrate support for a vulnerable customer? Offering, offering affordable options and be transparent to customer on the policy terms and conditions. Listening to customers' needs and offering a product that does not meet his or her expectation. C. Refer the customer to another company as he or she is being too noisy. D. Insisting the customer purchase the expensive plan without considering his or her ability to pay. So answer is which one? All right. Okay, let's look at other questions, other answer. B is listening the customer's needs and yeah, we listen to customer needs, right? But we never tailor make a product that meets the expectation. Answer is no law. The customer is too noisy lah. I want to refer to another company. Answer is no law. All right. I want to insist an expensive product, but of course there is my impression that this customer is very rich. All right, without taking into the actual ability to pay. No law. Answer is yes. It's A, right? Let me check. Answer is A or not. Yes. Answer is A. Offering affordable options and be transparent to customers on the policy terms and conditions. As I mentioned, we cannot be spelling out all the details, terms and conditions. I think what we need to do is actually to spell out those key terms. Key terms is more important. Customers to understand. All right. Question number 6. A customer experienced a temporary financial crisis is considered vulnerable. True or false? A is true, B is false. Wow, very good. Some have already answered without even me flashing the 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 choice of answer. All right. Yes. A customer experiencing a temporary financial crisis is considered as vulnerable customers. So remember just I actually mentioned, those customers who has lost a job, those customers who are unemployed, all right? And those customer who actually experience the life adverse event, all right, they're having financial difficulties. All these are considered as vulnerable customers. Answer is A is true. As I mentioned, life is like a roller coaster. It may go up and down, right? I may be unemployed today, but I may be able to gain another a job the next day. All right. I may lose a job today, but eventually I'm able to regain a job, right? But at the moment when this person faces a financial crisis, right, we will take them as vulnerable customers because they have lack of money to spend, all right, to put aside on their insurance, uh, what do you call it, the insurance that they wanted to purchase. Yeah, that's A, good, true. Yeah. Number seven, if a vulnerable customer appears to be facing financial difficulties, the agent should not be encouraged to upsell products aggressively without first understanding the customer's needs. Again, this is a true or false answer. Uh, A is true, B is false. So which is the correct answer? Again, I repeat, yeah. A vulnerable customer appears to be facing financial difficulties. All right. And the agent should not be encouraged to actually upsell products aggressively without knowing the customer's needs first. Let me see whether it's A or B. Yes, answer is A, true. Of course, when a customer facing financial difficulties, right, you must be able to measure and to observe, right, what is their hidden needs, because this customer will be shy to tell us what they needs. But through the conversations, right, then we are able to know what are their really. Of course, that will take some skill, all right, some patience and some uh, empathy, right, to understand what is their real needs. Then only we're able to actually uh tailor make such a product to customers. Yeah, wonderfully done. All right, answer is true. Yeah. Another three more questions. Question eight. All right, it is an agent responsibility to display empathy, patience, and listening activity while dealing with vulnerable customers. A is true, B is false. All right. So again, I repeat, if an agent it's an agent responsibility to display empathy, patience, and listening to customers, right? While dealing with the vulnerable customers, answer is yes. It's A. Yes, correct. Um, Actually, to me, lah, not only with the vulnerable customers, even with the normal customers, even with friends, even with family members, sometimes you have to, you know, display all these attributes, be a bit more empathy, patience, and listening, especially when listening to our children. Sometimes you need to be a bit more, have some good patient listening skill, because the children may tell you A to Z, all right? But sometimes, yeah, we have to give in, all right? So answer is actually true. Yeah, it's A, all right? All right. Questions number nine here. Agents may use insensitive uh, approach and pressure tactics when dealing with vulnerable customers who are facing adverse life effects. So answer is true or false. Yeah. Agents may use insensitive approach and pressure tactic when dealing with vulnerable customers who are facing adverse life effects. Answer is true or false. Yeah. All right. Most of you all or everybody choose B, right? Wow, you all are very king, very good. Okay, let me see. Yes, answer is B, false. Yeah. So of course we cannot use insensitive approach. Also pressure tactic, when a customer already experienced a very sad life story, spouse passed away because of an accidents, right? And he is totally lost. And we must be able to display some empathy and to actually adopt the sensitive approach, all right, to actually calm down the customers, right? Before we even talk about the insurance lah. Yes, answer is B, false, right? The last questions is a similar questions, right? Lost spouse. A customer mentions that they have recently lost their spouse and are struggling to understand their financial situation. What should you do? All right. A, show empathy and offer a tailor-made products that are suitable for the customers. B, acknowledging their situation and doing nothing. C, tell them it's not my concern. D, tell them to call back when they feel ready. So, which is the correct answer? All right. Let's look at B, C, and D lah. Um, when a customer has lost their spouse, all right, yeah, we acknowledge their situation, but we do nothing. So I think not very ethical lah. Tell them it's not my concern. It's a very harsh words, right? We should listen to them carefully. In fact, then tell them to call back when they are ready. Something also uh quite harsh words. Right? Right. So the answer here should be, give me one moment. Yeah. All right. So the answer is A. All right. Yes, you are very right. All of you got it correctly. Yeah. So show empathy and offer tailor-made products that are suitable for customers. For customers at that moment in time. People lost their spouse. Yeah, they feel hurtful. But nevertheless, just one day, they'll be able to stand up again. And that will take time. That's why people say that, time is the best medicine. All right. But at the moment, they experience this life event, right? A very worst life event. Of course, as a professional agent, you must be able to listen to them, all right? Carry a sense of empathy. Then only we see what are the uh, um, insurance, right? We can work together with these customers, right? To actually make this work lah. That's more important, right? All right. Not so bad lah. At least my effort is doesn't actually go into the drain. Wonderfully done. 10 questions. That is show that you are actually quite uh uh enthusiastic lah. I use those right in this presentations deck. Yeah. To show your interest lah, at least, right? To understand what is vulnerable customers all about and how to actually tackle all these vulnerable customers. Yeah. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the last topic here. I'm not sure whether you are aware that we do have a product called Great Shield Care, which is in the shelf and still made available. It's not a very high profile product. Some history, right? This product, I think it was established quite a number of years back. It was actually uh, uh, was actually um, requested, all right, in the Bank of Canada guideline to actually, to ask the insurance company to develop such a product for OKU. That's why I think the most popular one, Great Shield Active, like those that, Platinum PA, and other product, but not so much on the Great Shield Care. We do have this product called OKU product, which is aligned with the vulnerable customers here. All right, now this is a very simple and straightforward product. This brochure will look something like this: Great Shield Active. All right, now this is actually designed, all right, for those people with disability like OKU. All right, orang kurang upaya OKU. Age is actually not less than 16 years old and not more than 65 years old, and renewal up to 70 years old. All right. This one is only a very plain vanilla product. It only cover death, accidental death. All right. It's a lump sum payment, 28,000, and the premium is actually quite affordable. It's only 50 ringgit 94 cent. It's a very plain vanilla product, but at least something that we actually design and actually cater for OKU person. Now, how do we define person with a disability here? All right. Now, person with disability, right, are all those shall refer to those individual who has a long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairment. It means hearing problem, all those things. All right. And which is in interaction with various barriers may hinder their full and effective participation in society. That means those people that having the disability, which I mentioned in the slide, in the definition of vulnerable customers, right? That will fall under this disability as 2008. Right. Now, again, sounds familiar, which I already explained earlier in my slides, right? Which I will not go through again. Hearing disability, yeah, is one of them. Can be classified as OKU person, all right? And vision disability, whether is blind in both eyes or blind in one eye, all right, or with limited vision in both eyes, right, or any permanent vision impairment, that is actually considered as the vision disability. It's not that it must be 100% blind, right? Even though you are unable, have a low vision, all right, we will also take it as a people with a vision disability, all right. Individual who is actually with the permanent disability of the parts of the body, whether caused by loss or absence of any disability, right, part of the body that can affect their function in carrying the basic activity like bathing, all those things, is considered as the physical disability person, right? Speech disability, again, right? Individual who are unable to actually speak, right? That impairs a proper communication, but cannot be understood by those who interact with them. That means I don't understand what is this person trying to talk to me. Yeah, that is called as speech disability, right? Learning disability, it's not really covered in our just now the vulnerable disability side, but however, in this policy, this insurance we did mention that, right? Those individual who is actually with intellectual, mentally retarded lah, I would say, with intellectual capabilities that do not conform to the biological age lah, all right? You may look like 17, but your mindset is like a child, a 8 years old kid. There's a learning disability, right? Um, Such as autism, very famous, all right, or deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. One of my relative son is actually having this, facing this issue, hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. He actually very active one, hyperactive bang here and there one. All right. Uh, Lylazia, all right. I think one of the I think agent ask is for under here, learning disability, all right. Now, multiple disability here. Individual suffers more than one disability, right? For example, suffer vision and hearing disability, right? Then it consists multiple disability. Yeah. Mental disability. Yeah. That's why the reasons why we have this product requested by Bank of Ghana, because they want to actually just take care of the vulnerable customers. Mental disability, well, nobody wants it to happen, but it happens. As I mentioned, life doesn't give warning. When you're born with a child with mental disability, that sometimes it could be inherited, right? So nobody wants this to happen, but it happens. Then we must be able to manage it, right? Those individuals who suffers from severe mental illness that causes a disability to function in persons, whether partly or fully in matters, to him or to herself, right? They may unable to take care of himself properly, right? They have a mood disorder, all right? They have a chronic organic mental disorder, all right? They may just bang their head, they may just cry, you know, uh, uh, you know, happen like that, right? So something that very difficult to really, you know, help. Depression is not depression is actually, yeah, right. Depression is actually one of the mental disability, but it doesn't fall under this category. All right. Because depression is something like, lah, when fresh grad come out to work, right? When we are in the university, we are being spoon-feeded all the time. But when we come out to work, we have to be independent. Nobody will feed us with information. We have to explore on our own. And this fresh grad sometimes when they feel they may actually have depression. I got actually a cousin happened like 20 years back, or not 20 years back. He was actually a fresh grad graduate from university. He actually happened to get a job in the bank. 20 years ago, when you get a job in the bank, wow, come fan a golden bowl, all right. so so he was actually bullied by those because when he came in as a, because in bank there are actually some grading one, official there are one or two one. So because my friend is a fresh grad versus a degree, so actually he hold official I think it's a official one lah. Whereas those that with the diploma or those that work for a long time already from the base experience, they only can be classified officer two. Uh, Club, of course, definitely will be a club level lah. So of course they feel that if you come in with this title, then you should know everything. We do need to spoon feed you, and because of the whole month he was actually very was neglected, and he got a depression lah. All right. So in fact, he has been um then he resigned. Then she resigned. Then actually she take I think a few months to get uh recovered, right? That's called depression. Happens depression, yeah. Right. Now, let me just mention again, the eligibility. As mentioned to you, this is just a very plain vanilla uh you know uh product. Only one plan and one premium. It's only covered death benefits, right? Now, eligibility, Malaysian and residing in Malaysia, all right, age not less than 16 years old and not more than 65 years old, and and can be renewed up to 70 years old, all right. Register with Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat and own a OKU card. That's very important, all right. You must own a OKU card. I did have experience taking care of those old folks, those elderly person in old folks home. So the OKU card need to be applied, right? Not only you can get, it's not auto given. Especially those old folks that they have no family members, they want to apply for the government subsidies, which is 500 ringgit per month. All right, I think now it's 600 if I got correctly, right? Now, for those OKU person, they need to have OKU card, right, in order to entitle for certain subsidy as well. So not bedridden or in the case of coma, all right, that's how we define. Not suffering with mental disability and multiple disability, right, or combination of a visual and hearing. So we only accept only those single disability, not multiple disability, right, to enroll for this plan here. Coverage, who, of course, is actually designed for the people with disability, PWDS. And how? They died due to accidents, not illness, because it's a PA, we don't cover illness, all right? When? So we actually pay the lump sum of 28K, simple and straight for product. Of course, for more details, we can always refer for the full details of policy, right? So this is just a summary of the benefits given accorded to this policy. Schedule of benefits, right? Accidental death, 28K, uh, plus premium, plus the SST 8%. So total payable premium is actually 15 ringgit, right? Bear in mind that this is actually excluding the stamp duty. Yeah. Including stamp duty will be 60 ringgit 94 cents. These are the major exclusion. All right, major exclusion, not all exclusion, but major exclusion. In general insurance, there's always a standard exclusion, suicide and attempted suicide, while sin or insane also not it's not payable. Person actually diagnosed with HIV, including AIDS also not payable. Childbirth, pregnancy, miscarriage, or any complication thereof also not payable. All right, this is a standard PA exclusion. Excluded disability, mental disability, multiple disability, all right, of combination of hearing and vision, bedridden or coma, not payable, all right. Oh yes, yeah, Mr. Go, yes, you're right. Um, this is less than 100 ringgit. Yeah, you are very right, very sharp. Thank you for highlighting. Yes. So this one actually stamp duty will be waived because it's actually less than 100 ringgit. Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Ko, for highlighting. All right. Engaging in dangerous activities like sports, skydiving, horseback polo playing, motor sports rallies, whether professional or semi-professional, all this not covered because OKU, anyway, OKU don't do all these activities. Criminals or illegal activities of, uh, excluded. Motorcycling excluded. All right. It means if any motorcycling event happen, any accident arising from motorcycling accident are not covered. Terrorism not covered. Right. Simple and straightforward policy. Right. So that's it. All right. Um this is the come to the end of the presentations, right? Now, as I mentioned to you that in fact, this is initially your thought. I mean, somebody may thought that the vulnerable consumer is only just confined to those people with disability, physical disability, right? So with this presentation now, I believe that I open up a wider definition here, which include the first time buyer, which include those with the financial difficulties. All right, include those that suffering the spouse loss as the life life adverse event. All right. So yeah, it actually cover more than just a disability. That's why we need to actually uh display our empathy, and also we need to actually you know tailor-made a proper communication, carefully to be carefully communicated with this disability person, right? In order to really win their hearts. All right. Now, without further ado, please let me do the uh, polling. All right. All right. I have already launched the polling, so you'll be given 10 minutes to complete such a polling, right? And just a friendly reminder that we already uploaded our this e-learning for 2026, right? As I mentioned earlier, for those that miss out, what I've actually uh presented in the early stage before these presentations, right? Now, for those existing customers, right, you only need to do one compulsory e-learning, which is uh, PDPA e-learning, all right? Now, for those new agent that actually we term it as a fresh grad or with less than 1 year experience, right, that join the industry. So these new agents need to do two e-learning, which is compulsory, PDPA and PIDM. So the rest are optional. But however, we have developed the various e-learning that actually sum up to 25 CPDs, 25 hours, right? So you're unable to actually, come for the virtual training, or physical training if organized by your branch, right? So at least you have this, so to speak, the e-learning for you to earn your uh, CPD. All right. Of course, at the same time, also can refresh your knowledge, that's relating to regulatory requirements such as IPC, such as fair dealing. I think fair is very important. I encourage you all to actually complete the e-learning for fair dealing. All right. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful sessions with me. Yeah. Yeah, for those who have actually done the polling, so you may exit this uh meeting room. Yeah, thank you very much.